What's up, everyone? It's NFL Week 6, and this is Winning the $1 Million Game, where we take a look at strategies to attack the giant contest on DraftKings, very specifically the Millie Maker, but this will work for any large contest. And with me, as always, to break it down, the mathematician himself, the Shark Lab, the author of Winning the $1 Million Game, cracking the code on DraftKings, available on Amazon, is my man, Shark Lab, aka Burns. What's going on, Burns?
Hey guys, how you doing? Got some new stuff for everyone this week. We've gone through 5 weeks of the NFL season, so we have enough data to basically start looking at things more intuitively from Vegas betting lines and how it impacts Millie Maker lineups moving forward, and basically any contest lineups moving forward. So it's going to be pretty impressive.
I'm excited. We were just talking off air a little bit about some new criterion for the quarterback position, or effectively based on what's happened so far this year. So more, I wouldn't say, again, none of this stuff is always ever set in stone, but some guidelines for how to choose players based on the lines. But Burns, before we get into that, I would like to take a look at what won this past week and just get a brief glance at this week's Millie Maker winner. And this is the results database here. And we've got Mr. Buckeye, 151, $1 million winner. Looks like he put up a 255.18 this week, Burns. And I noticed, he within the first, okay. So 255.18 was the winning score. And you can see here, it is a Burrow to Chase stack.
Yeah, I mean, this lineup was basically everything that we talked about almost to a T last week, with the exception of 2 spots, or maybe even just 1 spot.
How the hell did I not win $1 million?
I mean, if you look at it, we were on every one of these plays with the exception of 2. Joe Burrow, because of his health, and that was the only reason why we were on him last week, because of his health, and Adam Thielen. That was it. Everyone else in this lineup we were on.
I mean, beyond on, I had core plays that I gave out to DFS Army subscribers, but also those of you who watched the shows last week. We talked about, and my top plays at running back were, of course, Montgomery Hall and Achane. I mean, that trio was the nuts trio, which is crazy. When does that ever happen? They were my 3 highest owned, and they were our core plays that we talked about all week long on the show. Jamar Chase was chalky. We all liked him, and I particularly kept, Addison was my guy for the week, even though it maybe took an injury for him to put up that kind of decent number. I don't think Addison was the reason this lineup won.
No, it was definitely Chase. You had to have Chase and Burrow.
Yeah, it was Burrow, and then beyond that, of course, just hit the right defense. Jets defense was fine, but you could have gotten here with Saints defense and actually surpassed this lineup. So, and Thielen was not somebody that I was as excited about last week, primarily because Bryce Young, he just isn't that good of a quarterback. But congrats to Buckeye 151 for taking this one down. I'm just curious how many lineups he actually made. Oh my God,
One.
It's a one-off. So this is a one-off lineup, guys. He only made 1 lineup. That's $1 million off a $20 entry, and that's the lotto ticket. That's the dream. So a lot of us are, listen, we all want to win $1 million. Everybody wants to win $1 million. Buckeye pulled it off on 1 lineup, so I love that. Congrats to him. Let's see how the MME guys did. I know I did not do well in terms of like taking a tournament down last week. I did check the optimizer, the domination station, and I was able to replicate the winning lineup. It only took 2 or 3 clicks. If you just ran the DFS Army domination station raw, I could show it to you now. Quite honestly, I kind of want to. Actually, let me show you. If you run the optimizer just raw with our standard settings, I don't know if you check this out. Let's go to backtest mode.
Oh yeah, I do this every Monday after the slate.
As do I. And if you guys are watching this and you're not doing this, you are doing DFS wrong. You must, after every slate, if you're doing, how can I put this, Burns, in ways that people can understand? This is part of the job of DFS, right? You need to backtest after every single slate to see what went right, what went wrong, what can you do different. So I'm just going to show you something here. I'm going to reset the settings so that we are at raw settings for where the
I mean, our settings that we went over in backtest mania over the offseason that you and I went over, they're holding true almost week in and week out. If we don't tinker much, you know what I mean? We add a couple of doors, loves to players, and that stuff is just working. But
You're going to see what we just added, a new option, a new addition to the stacking functionality that we are testing this weekend. It will go live next week. I will be testing it for my own game this weekend, and some other DFS Army subscribers will be testing it as well. But we've added something that is effectively going to be a game changer. I wish we had the ability to go back and do a whole year of back testing with this extra feature, but effectively, you'll see it's an if-then statement. It allows you to sort of make lineups happen a little more natural, double and triple stack. Correlations are going to be more natural with what we've just done. So check that's coming soon. But here we go. Just 3 uniques, right? Simple 150 lineups. No real adjustments to anything. The only thing I'm going to adjust eventually is, all right, so if you just run it like this, let me just make sure I didn't forget anything. 30% max across the board in just a blind run without really doing any adjustment. I was able to get a 226 or 227, which was good for, just outside the top 100 or so, I would say.
yeah.
Let's go back to leaderboard. If this doesn't break this, it didn't. So yeah, just outside the top 100. But here's the thing. We had core plays in on Montgomery, Brees Hall, and Devon Achane. And if you just bump those guys up beyond the 30% max and let them go to 40-50, you're actually winning the Millie Maker just with a move like that. So
yeah, I think if you didn't have Brees Hall and you didn't have Jamar Chase this past weekend, you pretty much were out of the running for any winning of any tournament.
Yeah, you needed there
right.
you could actually have gotten there with Hurts instead of Burrow, though. There is a path.
Because Hurts had his stacking partner of Goddard, and it was low enough for you to get there.
Yes.
Because most lineups if it had the winning lineup had Goddard in it, and then you had to have Chase. So, and Goddard was one of the top. I mean, he was one of our top plays at tight end last week. So,
yeah, we're going to get into this week's slate, of course, as well. But I think it's important to understand, not to tinker too much. Check this out. So, just the initial run gets you a 220 without any adjustment. And note that, you get some real garbage in here. Like Brees Hall is only 13% in this one. Ramondre, who I had zero exposure to, is popping to 30%. I didn't like Kamara last week either. So some of these high-owned guys are popping that I would be pulling from my lineups. But a little adjustment here. I'm going to show you just a basic adjustment. All right, we had a core play on Montgomery. I went 60% Montgomery in my actual real-life run, so I'm going to raise him up to that. Devon at 40% and Brees Hall at 40%. Brees Hall needs an actual projection bump, so I'm going to change him to 15.5 just to make sure I get him. And then, of course, pulling out a terrible play in Ramondre. I didn't have any of him this past weekend. I'd also bump Swift here a little bit. So,
yeah,
minor
what hurt me in my single entries was I had Derrick Henry in it, but I liked the matchup. The Derrick Henry matchup was very good. He just didn't produce fantasy points.
Derrick Henry's going to have a hard time making you pay for not playing him this year. They're just not playing him as much as they did. And what I think it's going to be is just accept the reality that Derrick Henry is probably more of a ceiling guy. Like his ceiling, he's priced as if his ceiling game is almost like a standard game, which is not going to be good. You're not going to see the 35, 40 pointers out of Derrick Henry that make you pay. And at 7.5K, 20, 30, he needs 30 just to 30, 35 just to hit value. And I don't see it. I think you can almost not play Derrick Henry.
I was thinking with him, he
year.
gets me in and around 22. I'm good. He was low owned in the single entries that I had him in. So I was like, 22, that still has me right where I need to be. I'm not looking for, it was like it was a non Millie Maker type lineup, right? It was more of your higher dollar single entry contest. And I was like, I get 22 out of him because, I had Chase in that lineup. It was really good. I had Brees Hall in there too, but I also had a dud out of Dobbs. So it just didn't work, but
Understandable.
onward.
Yeah, onward. That's right. We're onward to NFL Week 6, and we have an exciting week ahead of us as always. Let me change this back to the main slate here and just get back to what we were doing. So we have another exciting slate as always. Interestingly, this week we don't have that 55 point, 52 pointer. Like most weeks, we get one game that pops out above all the others, a 55er or a 52 pointer, and this week does not feature anything like that. Again, let me push this
We
over
just
to the
have a
side.
couple of high 40s.
Yeah, and they're sketchy, right? You have this 47 pointer, but this is a Dolphins domination against the Panthers, so it's really more of one team. The only other game above 45 in the projection is this Cardinals at the Rams game, and this one is sketchy because the Rams wide receivers are so expensive that it's kind of hard to build around that team. I am excited about the running back. We'll get to that, but like it's not the easiest team to build around because Puka and Cup are so expensive. So let's get into it. Let's start by talking about the quarterback position, and I'm going to pull up ownership projections at the moment. Again, we record these. It's Thursday as we're recording this. Ownerships update throughout the week and the weekend, and information. Well, it's funny. I actually got some pushback. Why does it change? News comes out throughout the week. Information, injuries, information from coaches, and it changes ownerships. It changes player projections. So that's why that does change. But in the initial run, Matt Stafford is the chalk.
Yeah.
Okay. 6,100 Matt Stafford, who hasn't crossed 20 fantasy points this year. Interesting. Feels a little fadeable to me. I talked about this situation with John Statstation Alessia on the game plan, and he liked Matthew Stafford, but as we talked about the math of pairing him up with Cup or Nakua, it's not that good. It starts to get expensive. And I'll tell you right off the bat, I'd much rather play Joe Burrow, who I love the fact that Joe Burrow is not the highest owned. All right, let me just clarify something real quick for the people out there. Like, how we talk about you want to play the highest owned quarterbacks in cash games, Burns?
Yeah.
Yeah. If this remained the same, I would still focus on Joe Burrow or Justin Fields in cash, not Matthew Stafford. I'm not doing that. So that being said, you have some new rules for the quarterback position, based on your reading of top Millie Maker winners so far this season. So let's go over that before we and then we'll try to pair these up with which quarterbacks this week actually match these things. So break this down for me, drop some math on me.
Yeah. So basically what we looked at, over a course of 5 weeks, we've taken the top 20 Millie Maker lineups over those 5 weeks. So now essentially we have 100 lineups to be able to look at. Obviously, in and around those 20 lineups, of course, you're going to have duplicate entries of quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, defenses, etc. So those are all taken into account. But what we're looking at here is we're looking at those lineups and how many of each respective quarterback, whether he's a favorite at home, a home underdog, home or away favorite, and away underdog. So what we want to see is we want to see how many of each he's going into. So that's the count. The percentage is based off of those lineups where basically anytime an away favorite or favorite was utilized, those are the number of lineups that we looked at. We didn't look at the overall. So each one of these, that's what the percentage is about.
All right, hold up. Okay. Back it up a second. Just let me grasp this.
It's a little different. So
you're starting out with.
So we start out with 100.
It's 100, right?
Yep.
Of the 100 lineups, 18
18.
times it was a home favored team.
Correct. But we don't just look at 18 based off of the 100. We have to look at of all those favorite lineups that were utilized over the course of the 5 weeks. So that's where we get the 31%. We don't base it off of all 100 lineups. So
Wait, this number here does not add up to 100%. So
no.
Again, clarify, what is this number?
So basically what we're looking at, so if I look at the home favorites and the away favorites, right? I want those two percentages to equal 100. And then the home dogs and the away dogs, I want those percentages to equal 100. It's not, I want home favorites based off of all the lineups, home dogs based off of all
So
the
this is
lineups.
of the favorites that
Mhm.
were in the winning lineup.
31% of the time, it was a
It was
home favorite.
home, but more often than not, it was an away favorite
That's
that
right.
ends up in a tournament winning lineup.
Right.
And of the underdogs that
It's
are in,
split.
it's perfectly split 21-21. And then if we extrapolate that out to just a general favorite versus underdog quarterback, so underdog quarterbacks are showing up in these top 20 lineups quite a bit. But
Yep.
in this case, 58% of the time it has been a favored QB, and
Mhm.
42% of the time it's been an underdog QB. But when it's an underdog, it's much more likely to happen if they are an away favored, not away, no, and a no, it's equally home dog and away dog.
Right.
So underdog, it could be home, it could be away. It has not mattered at all
That's right.
so far. And again, these numbers are still only from 5 weeks of a season. So I'm excited to sort of follow along with this throughout the season and see how this adjusts. And I think,
It definitely will.
Yeah, it could change.
It'll start to go more towards the home favorites and the away favorites where they're becoming more they're going to start to take over. But the numbers that I'm really interested in, not so much those first two columns or even the first. We want to really concentrate and focus our energy on the last 4 columns. These are where all the magic starts to take place. So, like in a home favorite situation, of those 18 lineups, 72% of the time they're attacking the total points of 45 or greater, and each team had an implied team total of 24 or greater.
So
72% of
effectively,
the time.
the home favorite in a high projected game. Okay.
That's right. And then obviously, you know, marginal percentages at the end here where it was 45 total points and less and 24 implied team total and less.
Let me translate it for like the regulars,
Mm-hmm.
and you tell me if what I'm seeing is correct. And regulars, like, you don't have to, where I don't need a math degree to figure this shit out. Okay.
Right.
So game total greater than 45
Yep.
and a team total greater than 24.
Where
Now,
both
if a
occur.
home dog has a team total greater than 24, that means that game is like a 55er, right? So
Mhm.
that means that game has to have a massive total.
That's right.
That's important to note. If the away team, and that never it didn't work out with an away dog at these levels at all. It never happened, never worked out, because in those games, so effectively what I'm seeing here is that the home in the highest total games of the season, in those 50 plus pointers, it has been the home favored or the favored QB that has been coming through as the potential nuts guy.
That's right. 58
Yeah.
times this year.
Now, the second column measures games that have a higher than 45-point game total, but a lower than 24-point team total. So this only the underdogs have ever come through, because in this scenario, because in a game total above 45, more often than not, the home favorite will have a greater than 24 team total. So this effectively eliminates most of the favorites, and you can see that here in the numbers. In these games with a greater than 45%, 45-point total, effectively, but the away dog made it into the winning lineup. They are more likely to have a less than 24 team total, which is pretty much every underdog, period, outside of the high thing. And here you can see that in games with a below 45-point game total, but above 45-point team total, which are very few games that would have this. It's so this, let me think. I'm trying to think of the scenario. Lower than 5-point game total, but above 24 team. So that means that this would be a game where the favorite is like a 25-point and the underdog would be like sub 20, kind of like the Eagles this week against the Jets, where effective.
Right.
And in those situations, the underdog has never appeared in a winning lineup. That makes sense. And these are pretty rare, even for the favorite team to hit in these spots. So low total game, high team total, low game total feels like a stay away.
Yep, absolutely.
Let me see if we can find a game like that.
And another thing we saw in the research of those 100 lineups, you really want to attack defenses. You really want to attack quarterbacks that are playing defenses that give up a lot of points to the quarterback position, a lot of fantasy points.
No, I mean, that's gonna, that's a bit of self-fulfilling also.
Yeah,
Because
there's a lot of people that try to play the underdogs and just to play an underdog, and they don't understand the situation of the game. They just try to play every situation or every possible scenario that they can. But if you do it strategically and you look at underdogs based off of these last four columns, so an away dog, right? 71% of the time, 45 points in the game or greater, and an away dog has under 21 or 24-point implied team total, and they're playing a defense that gives up, say, 30. They're 30th in the league of giving up points to the fantasy points to the quarterback. That is probably a position where you need to attack.
even home dogs,
Yeah,
dogs.
yeah. So those are the spots you want to attack. Whereas, like a spot here, I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to attack this spot. Philadelphia is on the road. They're going into the Jets. Jets actually, or the Philly actually has right now an implied team total of 24, but the total points for the game is 41. So that's under the 45. So we're basically in this scenario of under 45 and greater than
That's
24.
right here, right? That would be right here.
So an away favorite has never this year in 2023 never been in a top 20 winning Millie Maker lineup. And to make it even worse for Jalen Hurts is that he's facing the Jets, and the Jets are rated as the 6th team in the league at allowing fantasy points to the quarterback's position. So they're a very good defense against the quarterback. So you really want to target those defenses that are rated 15 and below. So 15 to 32nd. So this is where we start, because we have so much more data. 100 lineups is a lot of data. So that's 100 quarterback lineups that we're looking at, 100 defenses. In tight ends was about a little over 100. It was like 105 because there were 5 lineups that utilized the tight end in the flex, and then there was 368 occurrences where a wide receiver was utilized across the 100 lineups, and 227 running backs. So that means that they were utilizing these wide receivers and running backs in the flex as well. So we have a lot of data. We're going to get way much more from week 6 to week 18. So it's going to actually make this even much more dynamic as we keep going week to week to week.
By week 18, it's going to be too late.
Yeah, week 18 will be too late. But like next week, I mean, the fluctuations could be a little bit. You're not going to see holistically fluctuating numbers like the 72% on the home favorites. That's not going to go way down to 35%. Okay. I mean, it's going to be, it'll decline in statistics. It'll usually we look at a plus or minus 5% in around. So that's about what it's going to be.
I'm fascinated at how frequently it's been the away favorite that has been the nuts spot
in the nuts lineup.
Yeah.
I
think I understand why. My theory for that is when you're away and you're favored, it's just more likely that your opponent is making a game of it because they're at home. And so maybe they're more likely to be just playing tough. Like if you think about like some of the Eagles games, like they played Washington away and Washington made a game of it. And you're like, wow, these guys suck, but they made a game of it against the Eagles. Or we've seen, Arizona a few times make a game of it against favored opponents, where the opponent had to really turn up the heat a little bit. So even the Jets made a game of it against the Chiefs. Not that that was anything as part of this, but you see the home favorite, the home underdog can often make a game of it. And if the away favorite still wins, that means they had to score more frequently than they might have had they just been home and dominated an opponent. Like what
I think the total number of times this year that an away favorite has won the Millie Maker has been 3. Week 2, it was Danny Dimes. Last week, it was Joe Burrow. And week 4 or week 3, it was Fields. And 2 of those occurrences was against the Arizona Cardinals.
Specific.
Yeah, the other Joe Burrow both of those last week against Cardinals and Danny Dimes against the Cardinals.
I would add in, because this is something we talked about in the offseason Millie Maker breakdown. Both of those occasions, those were running QBs.
Right.
Yeah. So it was a running QB that gets you there, which is
except for Burrow, he was hobbled. So
no, but I meant with Fields and Daniel Jones. Yeah. So on 2 Fields of the 3
times,
you were dealing with, and I believe Burrow was favored in that game. So
he was.
Yeah, so that was a favored situation. But I'm talking about with the 2 underdogs. Chicago was an underdog. Daniel Dimes, if he was part of it, nuts would have been an underdog because the Giants are an underdog every fucking game.
He was actually a favorite in that week.
Really? The Giants?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. All right, so let's now bring it home, because everybody's like, I didn't come here to listen to your math. I want to know who to play this week. Now, sure. Neanderthals, all of you should listen to the math first. But now let's talk about
math runs the world, right?
Yes. Yeah. Listen, is that what they teach you in math class?
No, it's just logic.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
I did really poorly in my statistics classes, but I did well in finance. Who knew? I can calculate the future value of a bond, no problem. But calculus, no idea. Don't know. All right, so let's get into this week's QB position. I've got the domination station sorted by ownership, just so we can get a sense of who people are playing. I figured this is a good way to start it. And there's a couple of guys that stand out to me, but who does the Shark Lab like as a top pick this week? I'm assuming it's Joe Burrow, but where do the numbers point you this week?
Yeah, so Joe Burrow is going to be one of them, one of the top picks this week. Also, Trevor Lawrence is going to be in the play. He meets all the criteria. He's actually been a pretty efficient quarterback, even though he hasn't seemingly been in top fantasy scoring lineups, but he's been an efficient quarterback from a quarterback rating perspective.
They play better in London. It fools you into thinking, but they've been pretty shit when they've been in America.
They have, but I think they could start to turn around here. I think you're going to see them. This is the second time they're going to play Indianapolis, so this year. So I think they can actually start to make some movement here. Plus, they're going to be home, whereas they played them on the road. So that might have a dynamic there effect for them. And you could see Ridley could come back into play here in this one. He had a really good game against Indianapolis in week 1. Coming back here, you could probably see him generate some serious scoring potential. And, ETN, he had a very good week in week 1 as well. He put up pretty close to 24 DraftKings points, though I don't like his salary as much as I liked it in week 1. It was slightly lower in week 1 than this week, but he's still there, and he still has a good potential to make tournament winning value. Other games.
It's been too long since I've been able to say the Riddler, so I want to be able to do it.
And then other games, from betting line perspective, the Rams and Arizona game with the Rams, they're over 45 points. They have an implied team total over 24. That's dynamic. And Stafford now has Cup back, and the Cup is $9K. It's really expensive stack. Even though Stafford is at 5,700 this week, it's still a very expensive stack.
6,100 for Stafford.
6,100.
Even worse. It's even worse, Burns. He's in the sixes.
It's getting worse. But he's not the top. He's not one of the top guys. Moving down a little bit. If this game goes over 45 points, I would probably start to load up on this game. But since it's under 45 points, I'm kind of hesitating right now. Is the Minnesota-Chicago game?
Can I give you a reason why I'm going to allow you to load up on it?
Okay.
I have a reason for you here, Burns, and I'm going to allow you to bypass the math.
Okay.
Bears games have played to the over. Over the last, I have the number in front of me, but something like 8 of the last 10 games they've been in, and something like 12. You know what? I'll pull out the exact number. I don't have it in front of me. It's on the Sharp app and the trends report. But effectively, if you've been betting the over on Bears games for the last 16 or so games, you're hitting you're hitting an ROI well into the 60% range, and you're hitting at about 80%. So for the most part, every Bear game going back a season's worth has hit the over. So I say the Vegas is wrong, and we can assume that this game is also artificially being deflated by the fact that Jefferson is out, and they lowered the total under 45. I say treat it as a 45er is all I'm saying.
Okay.
Treat it as if it's over 45. We will flex the math just a smidge. Add a little coefficient. I'm going to add a coefficient, little standard deviation.
Little coefficient of variation. Yeah,
yes.
I get it.
Yes. We're going to put some Pythagorean theorem up in this bitch.
Yeah, so I would say I actually like Fields a little bit more than I like Cousins. I think Fields has the ability to get there and meet tournament winning value more easily than Cousins. Cousins got to do he's got to throw three. He has to throw 3. He has to throw 3 in 300, and he has to throw 4 in 350 to make tournament winning value 5x. I would say Cousins. And then Fields can get there with his legs. He can get there by throwing to DJ Moore, Cole Kmet. So Fields has a little bit more opportunities for him than Cousins.
I have Fields and Cousins as my 2 quarterbacks in a single QB high dollar fantasy football league.
Nice.
So I've made this decision already this week, and Fields is the quarterback that I'm using. So if you needed some fantasy football man, nothing to do with DFS, salaries thrown out, reasoning, of course I'm playing Fields over Kirk Cousins. I took him, as my starter. Cousins was like somebody you took in round 12. as a backup. So I'll be playing Fields.
Yeah, I'm down with you. I mean, I don't think their salary is that much in
Same
difference.
price. You can
Yeah.
play for the same price you play Fields there. Fields was my favorite. When I did my first look at this slate, it was between Burrow and Fields to me as the top dog on the slate. I think it's like I said. That's why I think it's funny that Stafford and Trevor and even Tua are all like showing up above, Fields here.
Tua's tough to get on board with. I'm having a tough time getting on board with him. The spread is just really, really pulling me away from that game. I think it's more of I could go with the wide receivers and not have Tua in there. Just go a wide receiver with Mostert, stack, like a Tyreek Hill or a Waddle stacked with Mostert in this one versus having Tua and Tyreek. It's just a very expensive stack. But also the fact that, Miami playing Carolina. Carolina's actually been pretty good against the quarterback. So I'm not really going to jump on board on that one.
They've also been incredibly bad against the run. So it does seem that if you're going to attack the Panthers, you might as well just use your running back, which Miami's happy to oblige more often than not. So Tua has not done it. Tua has not produced tournament winning scores in these outsized favored games. Even in the game against Denver, when they scored 70, Tua did not make the tournament winning lineup. So I think you can effectively say if they're going to play sort of a mediocre to bad offense like the Panthers, they're
Right.
probably not going to be able to keep up. So I like. There are very few quarterbacks that seem to be even viable this week. Burns, very few.
Yeah, it is. It's very barren this week from a quarterback perspective. But there are a couple of underdogs in addition to Fields that I do like this week. I do like Geno Smith coming into Cincinnati. It's just the betting lines are setting up favorably for him. He's a very efficient quarterback. He's one of the highest QBRs in the NFL right now. I can get that number, but he's right up there. I think he might even be in the top 3 from a QBR perspective. Nope, he's a little bit lower than 3. He's probably in the top 5 or 6, but he is an efficient quarterback. The other game is keeping with that Jacksonville game is on the other side of the ball. Gardner Minshew. He actually did play for Jacksonville at one point in time, and he did have some success with Jacksonville at that time, so he knows that stadium very well. It's not like a new environment for him. So
Give me the science
Minshew
behind that
mania
one.
could,
What's
huh?
what's the science behind? He knows a quick path to the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly right.
He
He
knows where
knows
it
that
is.
the bricks are barren down there.
He knows
But
where you
yeah,
can get the best Italian Italian steak in the stadium.
he's gonna get a swordfish sandwich or something down there.
What city is this? Indianapolis.
Yeah,
He knows where
Jacksonville.
the best spaghetti and ketchup and hamburger crumble chili is. Are they the ones that do? No, that's Cincinnati. That do like
Yeah, they do that.
the
Yeah,
chili over the spaghetti or some crazy
Skyline
thing.
chili down there. Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah, that's actually that's Cincinnati. Sorry,
Sorry, all your Skyline chili fans. It's just not something I like. It's just kind of
oof,
gross to me.
not so good. Yeah,
But all you Cincinnati people that like your Skyline chili. But
more power.
yeah, he's another guy that I could see. Why I like those two quarterbacks are they're 5K quarterbacks. So the path to tournament winning value is not as high as like a Jalen Hurts, who essentially has to get, let's see, 41 points.
We
He's
talked about it
8,200.
last week. Let me take us in the time machine back to last week as we went through the math of how to win the Millie Maker, and it was we just hit the wrong name. If you no one played these guys, we were talking about how like even with a Josh Dobbs, if you hit a 25, That's as good as a 40 from these higher level QBs, who none of the high end QBs hit even the 30+ point game. I think Hertz got actually 32, so that was the highest they got. And so at 32, a 32 for Hertz, all you needed was about a 22 or 24 out of your cheapie to easily surpass them in value. So last week, unfortunately, I went with Dobbs and Wilson, Zach Z Wizzles, right, and Dobbs, who scored 2 touchdowns early, but then just completely shut down for the rest of the game. It wasn't Burrow that was the best QB last week. It was Des Ridder, but no one played him, so he didn't wind up in the tournament winning Millie Maker lineup. But it was actually Des Ridder who was the best QB, and Bryce Young to that point also put up a tournament level score, but no one played him. Had you had a Bryce Young to Thielen stack, would have been better than what actually won the Millie Maker last week in terms of raw points and how it would have gone. So
I'll even do one better for you. Zach Wilson was actually in one of the top 20 Millie Maker lineups last week. He was in the 18th place lineup, and it was basically him and Alan Lazard and Breece Hall was the stacking. So it was pretty incredible to see that Zach Wilson scored 9.56 DraftKings fantasy points and made it into the 18th place lineup.
16th, unless this is incorrect, but maybe even the 16th place. So
yeah, 16th.
Wilson, Breece Hall, Alan Lazard.
Yep.
So
and Lazard scored 6 points.
Imagine being this guy and you had Wilson and Lazard. This combination put up 15, and you still, like, everybody else would have been better.
It's because he had Goddard.
We can chase together, and Goddard and Thielen. Yeah, he hit the right defense.
Yep.
So
he hit everything else right.
These are winnable contests, guys. Just, look at even with 2 massive mistakes in the lineup, Mr. Charlie Blass almost got it done last week. So that's I didn't see that, and that's pretty awesome. So, like, if you need inspiration that these are winnable, even a mistake, but certainly when you pay down a QB, you give yourself better chances. There was no other scenario where you've got Hill and Chase in the same lineup. So that was it. You had to do something like that. So again, I like what you're saying. At the pay down level, there are, for me, I think Gardner Minshew, I think I got to be on it this week, Burns.
Yeah, I'll definitely be on him. You got to make pivots each year because of how the trends are starting to take place. And this is when we start to see trends taking place. Week 5 through 5 weeks is pretty much a good sample size, especially if you open it up to the top 20 lineups. You start to see significant trends in the data where you need to start making pivots. So I really like Gardner this week. He's not a guy that, he's not a young gun like Anthony Richardson, where he's going to use his feet and get you 2 running touchdowns. He's going to do it through the air. So he's got Josh Downs. He's got Michael Pittman, and coming back, he's also got Taylor. So Taylor can do it through the air as well. I mean, he's been a dynamite pass catching running back in the years past. So, but we'll see how that all shakes out with Taylor. I don't know.
I'm giving one of these for that statement.
Yeah,
you can interpret that. You can interpret that however you want.
The bobblehead.
I'm just going to let you interpret that however you want.
Yeah. I'm not saying I'm going to be on him. I'm just saying, like, in the past, he's been a very good running back from
that's
pass
fair.
Catching back.
Listen, Minshew has won us a tournament in the past. I think what we've seen the last couple of weeks is, my takeaway is that any quarterback on any given Sunday, unless you're Derek Carr, any quarterback on any given Sunday could put up a big score and win you a big tournament. It's never going to look good going in. So last week, if I would have sat here on the show and said Des Ridder, you would have been like, what the fuck are you talking about? People were pushing Ryan Tannehill last week as well. And you know what? I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? But, you know, if he comes out and he gets you that 25, it didn't matter. Any quarterback is capable of putting up 25 to 29 fantasy points. We've seen Bryce Young do it last week, and he is not a good quarterback currently as it sits as far as a fantasy producer. So there is some merit, and I'm seeing it more this year than I feel like last year it was very much like the studs were producing, and as we did the entire back test, it was pretty rare that it was like some rando. It was always a name that you were like, oh, Burrow was the guy. Oh, you know, Hurts this week. Oh, it was, you know, Josh Allen. Okay, so like it was the big names last year that were taking him down more often than not. This year we have definitely seen maybe a little bit of shift. And again, I have a theory that says it's because they've raised the pricing up of the Studley QBs from the 7s to the 8s on DraftKings, and that adjusted the narrative just a little bit. Like it is just harder for an 8K guy, not necessarily to get there, but to outscore every other low end quarterback by such a dramatic extent to make it worth paying for them. So math wise, again, 8K guy, 8, 16, 24, 32 plus, you're talking 35, 36 compared to 5K guy only needs 20 to 22 to equal the pacing of a 36 to 38 from an 8K. What does it all mean? It means it's not so much that I'm looking for a 20 from my 5K guy, but if my 5K guy gets me a 28 and gets me 5.5x, or a 30 and gets me 6x, he's putting me on pace for a 300 score.
Mm-hmm.
Where when I spend all that money on a quarterback and he only gets me a 4x, I'm on pace for a 200. That's the difference. That's the power of the multiplier here. You're usually going to get 6 and 7x's from your cheaper guys. You're never it's super rare to get that from an expensive guy. So you have to keep that in mind as you're building. And again, there is some leeway, even if you make a mistake at 5K. You saw it. Somebody could still get to a top 20 if you just hit all the other spots. Let's continue to talk about players. And a reminder, guys, if you like this style of analytical approach, hit that like button. Let Burns know in the comment section, you know, we like what you're up to, but also let us know who your favorite Millie Maker QB is this week. Who you stacking this week? Let us know. And if you hit it, if you hit the winning stack, Burns has agreed to another signed copy of the Millie Maker, solving the Millie Maker, winning the $1 million game book. Burns, you got to introduce the book. I'm going to get it wrong every time. Winning the $1 million game, available on Amazon.
Yeah, winning the $1 million game, secrets to DraftKings Millie Maker contest or DraftKings Millie Maker. Yeah, whoever successfully has the correct stack.
Not everybody. We'll pick one of you. If more than one person out, we're going to pick one of you. We'll call it out next week, and we'll get you a free copy of Winning the $1 Million Game.
I have them on hand.
There we go. And Burns will sign it. I told him, let's just send him the PDF. You don't have to use the mail. No, Burns wants to send you a hard copy signed. So that's how it's going to be. If it were me, I'd lazy out, be like, send me your email address, PDF that shit. But let's get back into this. So any other QBs popping for you, or we can kind of talk about some other position groups here?
Yeah, those are the ones that are popping from Vegas betting lines, fantasy points to the quarterback position. You know, those are your indicators of that and your efficiency metrics. Those are some pretty good indicators of how well a quarterback's going to do week in, week out. But, you know, it's also, there are some dynamics in the NFL where this may not actually take place. And we've seen it before, you know, guys in good spots, they could fail. So you have to account for that.
I'm going to mention a couple of dirty stack guys that just seem gross on paper, but so I think you're good. Your baseline plays this week. It's going to be Burrow. It's maybe going to be some Trevor Lawrence. It's going to be Fields. And my cheapie of the week is Gardner Minshew. So that's really only 4 names.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very, very small number of names.
Yep.
at the QB position, right? And now outside chance of Stafford here at 6,100. I'm fine with Stafford, but he's not lighting me up. So my gross names that maybe we're going to get some exposure to just because a little Sam Howell, who had a pretty decent game last week and can run the football. Don't love it. Feels disgusting. Want to throw up, but maybe that. Kind of thinking that I might want to dip my toe back into the Joshua Dobbs waters. Don't know why. Don't have a good reason for it other than, I missed it. It didn't hit last week. And so I kind of want to not be scared away from it just because it didn't hit last week. So I'm going to dip my toe in that water just a smidge. And man, I can't think of anybody else here that really stands out. I'm not going to do I don't think I can really. Oh, and Bryce Young. Yeah, Bryce Young is the other one. I'm not a Bryce Young believer yet, but I don't know. Is an easy stack, I guess, with Thielen. If I had to play Thielen, I guess I'll just do it in a Bryce Young lineup.
Yeah.
That's the best I got for you. Burns, let's move on. Let's talk.
I think I can get you off of Bryce Young.
All right, good. Get me off of Bryce Young. I don't want to play
that. The spread is too high.
It's just too much.
Yeah. Too much. Anytime I an away quarterback who's an underdog, they're priced in the 5K range where they're actually in the top 20 winning Millie Maker lineups, but the spread was very small. It was like a -3.5, -4.5 and below. So
too much.
13.5 is not going to get done.
All right. That's fair. You got me. It worked. I'm out. All right. Let's talk running back for a little bit here. And of course, people can see a little bit of my or adjustments already, but ownerships. Somehow Josh Jacobs in listen, I get why Josh Jacobs is currently projected as the highest, only coming off a decent game. I would caution people that the Patriots have had the best rush defense, or really probably in terms of raw yards allowed below expectation. They're pretty well up there this season. But the flip side is the Patriots offensively have been horrible. And even if you don't allow a ton of yardage to running backs, if you're turning it over and doing all the bad things that the Patriots have been doing, I can understand why an opposing running back would be chalky. But Josh Jacobs, not my favorite spot, looks like he will be the highest owned.
Yeah, it's not a spot I'm looking at. I don't like the fact that New England is a top 10 defense against running backs, giving up fantasy points to the running back position. So I don't really like that too much.
And spectacular in yardage allowed. So it's a bad matchup for Jacobs. Raheem Mostert and Kyron Williams for me are two that pop. I have some interest in Joe Mixon as well, although his ownership remains at an uncomfortable level for a guy who fails way more often than he's successful as a fantasy asset. So, much like last week when I said, you're going to give me, high owned Mixon, I'm just going to fade it. We talked about on this show, and that fade worked out very nicely last week. I think high owned Mixon here a little bit better. He's not quite as high owned. I'll have some exposure. Who does the Shark Lab like and why?
So definitely Raheem Mostert, right on board with you there. Kyron Williams, same, right on board with you. Another guy, mentioned him earlier, ETN, though I'm not so high on that 7.1K salary for him. It's a little price prohibitive, restrictive, but he's in a good spot here going up against the Colts. Couple others do like Alvin Kamara this week as well. Houston, they're a sieve, giving up fantasy points to the running back position, especially pass catching running backs. And Alvin Kamara is that. He is a pass catching running back. Additionally, another guy that we're very interested in this week is DeAndre Swift. Philly going up into the Jets territory.
Jets have been shockingly bad against the running back position this season.
Yeah, they have been. Another guy have some liking of him is, and he seems to do it every year, is Seattle. I do like the Seattle situation there with Walker. He seems to get, he seems to find his way into winning lineups more often than not. So I do like him this week a little bit. So
Yeah, I like that grouping. You saw I already had my adores on a bunch of those names. DeAndre Swift is official. I mean, if you don't, we looked at his usage, and the guy is getting workhorse usage at this point. 70+% of the running back opportunities for an Eagles team that scores a lot. Like, they have
mhm.
high team totals and they score frequently. So that's what you want. Raheem Mostert with no Devon, sign me up for that all day. I don't think that Jeff Wilson Jr. is ready, even to start or to play this week at all. So we'll see about that. But I think Raheem's going to be the guy there. And there's a beautiful thing where there's some stubborn people out there who've been actively um, fading Devon the last 3 weeks, that choosing to not win because they have some stubbornness over something or another. But if you look at the projected rushing yards in this game, it's over 200 according to the power ranking sheet from Statsational. So I'll take that all day. Kyron Williams, you just want to have running backs against the Cardinals. That is a good thing
Yeah,
to do. Period. You just want this. And Kyron Williams is like a 95% opportunity share running back. He's got one of the highest opportunity shares in the NFL. Um, I agree with every single pick that you've put up here, and I don't think you've missed one. I don't think we need to get crazy at running back this week, Burns. Last week we identified the nuts trio on this
yeah,
show and said you don't have to do anything. Like, you could just load up on that trio. They're really, really good.
I agree. And what I like about each and every one of those running backs that we talked about is that each and every one of them, minus Alvin Kamara, are on teams where their DVOA for rushing is very high. It's top 15 in the league. So that's why we're on these types of guys, that in addition to everything else that we utilize
Yeah,
to make sure that these are the right guys.
effectively teams that run the football well, and that's a
Exactly.
whole thing that people miss. I used to talk about this when we went over basically the Ben Roethlisberger Steelers. This was a big thing for me, and you heard me say it a million times because you've been with me since like fucking I was blogging on Blogspot. But
Yeah.
and this goes back that far, that I was like, I don't care who the running back is. If Ben Roethlisberger, this team produces quality outcomes from whoever the running back is. It doesn't matter what the name of the person is. If it's Le'Veon Bell, fine. If it's D'Angelo Williams, fine by me. It never mattered. They produce well to the running back position, and certain teams do and certain teams don't. So if
Right.
you get a team that can produce to the running back position, I don't care what the name of, like the Browns are a team that produce well to the running back position.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not playing Ford against the 49ers, but as a general thing, I'm like, I don't care if it's Chubb or Ford or whatever. These guys produce well. And we've seen it with the Colts this year. A team that traditionally has produced well to the running back position, and they just plugged in a mediocre running back from the Bills. And all of a sudden, Zach Moss is the next coming of Adrian Peterson. Like, that is, it's just a team that produces well to that position group. So I'm about it, and I think we covered most of it. I'm certainly interested in Roschon Johnson if he starts this week as a cheap guy. Interesting for me. And there's a couple of, I think I'm off the Montgomery bandwagon in this one with Gibbs coming back and with Vita Vea sort of in town, the perfect stopper for someone like Montgomery. Alexander Madison is ceding touches inside in the red zone, in the goal line zone, to Cam Akers right now, and he's not enough of a scorer anyway. So I'll have some Madison, but I'm less excited about it than I would
Yeah.
be another starter against a team like Chicago. McCaffrey is so expensive. You effectively cannot win anything when he's your running back, even if he produces a 30 or a 35. So it's just too expensive. You can't do it. Ramondre always, for some reason, projecting well, but never producing and splitting with Zeke. So there are so many great reasons not to play a lot of these other guys. I
Yeah,
think we just load up.
Ramondre going into Vegas. I had it. I've earmarked it where I need to look at it more. I'm just not. they just don't run the ball well. They're 26th in the league from a rushing perspective. It's just not good.
And he hasn't been used.
No.
And Zeke has been getting as many or more touches per game as Ramondre. Last year at least you had Damian Snacks Harris over there who could not catch a pass, so you knew if they were throwing the football, it was going to the Dre. But now Zeke is catching 4 or 5 passes a game, which means effectively they don't have that same sort of thing where one guy is never going to get thrown, so they need to bring the other guy in a passing situation. Now it's just a split, and that is just gross on a team that can't score. That is a
Right.
no-no. I thought it was
Yeah.
crazy that he was chalky last week. I was happy about it. It really gave DFSR. We had a 100K winner last week.
Yeah.
A little FanDuel takedown by my boy Bengal Tigers, aka
Nice.
Sliders. Multiple time 6-figure winner, just a regular member. So congrats out there to Sliders, Bengal Tiger in the DFS Army Discord on that 100K FanDuel takedown. Love to see that FanDuel takedown. Love to see those DFS Army avatars taking down tournaments. And of course, the showdown successes have been just incredible.
But
All right.
I'll be like this week. I'll probably primarily be in that 6K, 5K range. We've seen significant number of lineups in the winning Millie Maker top 20s where it's just been 6K and 5K that have superseded all other salary ranges, which is incredible.
The leverage works exactly the same as it does at quarterback.
That's
We
right.
talk about this math all the time. And I think part of what's been leading to this is that you've needed the high-end wide receivers to win these tournaments because they're actually putting up those 37s and those 40s where the running backs, if you've paid up for anyone not named Christian McCaffrey this season, you have not been rewarded.
That's
I don't
right.
care which one it was. The Derrick Henrys, the Bijan. Bijan's been hitting 18s and 20s, which is a fine score on my fantasy football season long team, but it's not good enough to beat every other cheaper running back on the slate. You just haven't seen it. So these studs haven't been producing the massive scores needed to justify, paying it. Let me put it like this. It's great when Derrick Henry puts up a 24 at 7.5K, but it's not that great when Montgomery puts up the same 24 at 6.2 and Breece Hall gets you a 32 at 5.6. Then you're like, wait a minute, that guy ruined my life. Or Devon Achane gets you 33, or Mostert gets you 30 at 6K, and you're like, wow, man, spending 7.5K for ETN, and he had a good game and put up a 22. I didn't win shit because those other guys in the same position did it for less. So yeah, I mean, they didn't give us any shortage of great running backs to target in this price range. So I'm good with it. We don't really have a lot of 5K guys, but who knows what will emerge before the weekend is through. I don't want to dive too deep into wide receiver because I feel like we cover that a little bit when we talk about the QB position. And plus, we're running out of time. So that's the big thing. So let's talk tight end. I know that you always are putting me on the right tight end most weeks. I've got this again sorted by ownerships, and I'm a little okay. I mean, Ertz, Evan Ingram, that's kind of weird. Kylie Pitter, I don't really get that at high ownership. What are you thinking this week at tight end?
It starts with Ingram for me at 4,500 this week. I just like those 4K guys that are in and around that between 4K and 5K. So there will be a tight end here that you're probably going to think is really gross when I get to him. But Ingram is one. It's just a really good spot. I was on him in week 1 as well. It's just really good spot against Indianapolis. Indianapolis they're a middling defense against tight ends. They actually give up 20th. They're the 20th in the league at giving up fantasy points to the tight end position. But betting lines are all there. They all meet the certain criteria for betting lines for this tight end.
Home favored tight end. Like, give me the criteria again.
Well, the criteria is kind of, it changes year to year, but let me just get to the current tight ends. So right now, Home favorites is a big one. And we want to target home favorites with games that are 45 and greater, implied team totals that are 24 and greater.
I mean, you've eliminated almost everything, but for this week, I don't even know if that exists outside of Tyler Higbee. That might be the only one
There's a
that
couple of spots, but yeah, you're right. But that's for home. That's for home favorites.
maybe Laporta in that mix.
No, he's an away guy.
Oh yeah, wait a second, they're away.
Let's see. What's another one?
Yeah, I mean he's effectively eliminated everyone except for
The
Higbee.
only
And
other one from I've been thinking about is in that Miami game, Durham Smythe. But the spread is very high, so I'm not really interested. Another one that I'd like is Cole Kmet if that line flips to 45.
just trust it. Trust it. I
Yep.
told you.
Okay.
It's hit the over. Just assume it's the line is wrong.
Okay. So I'll
Bet the
keep that one
over.
in. I'll keep
Go
that
to
one
your
in.
drive over to Indiana. Bet the O. Is Ohio legal to bet?
Yeah, they are now.
Oh, you have sportsbook. Okay.
Yeah, we have
Take the over. Take the over. Always bet the over every single week on the Bears. Easy money.
So I'll blacken that one in. I kept it in red. That's my indicator that I have to look at it more. Here's the gross one for you, and I know you're going to hate it. But from a betting lines and the fact that this defense is not good against deep middle coverage throws in across the middle, and they're not very good against the tight ends, is Kittle going up against Cleveland. It's a very weird situation. The game total is very low, but it meets all the betting line criteria for away favorites. Um, Basically, for away favorites, we want what is showing up the most is under 45 points total, under 24 implied team total. And this meets the criteria. It's a 37.5 point total right now.
Kittle had a big week last week, so
What's going to happen in this game is that Cleveland is the number one defense against the pass in the wide receivers. They're going to shut down Debo. They're going to shut down Ayuk. They're going to shut down Jennings. What they're going to do is they're going to leave Kittle open, and they're going to try to stop McCaffrey as well up the middle with Myles Garrett at all. So it just leaves Kittle there. It's a good spot. I don't know if it is going to be
I mean, look how low owned
dynamite,
it is.
but
There's nothing wrong with a play like this. You can get George Kittle. I don't love George Kittle most weeks. I don't like spending $5K on tight ends when just most weeks, and especially when there are some other ones that I like, better than that. I don't like spending up at the position. I like spend down. But give me 2% Kittle and be right about it. That's how you win the tournament. That's how you win $1 million.
Yeah, and it's just one of those ones where I'm like, kind of weird. It's a kind of weird one. I'm not like
I
I'm
feel like
not
tight ends tend to
excited
do
about
better.
it. It's
I,
just
I,
it's
I
just
like that
one of those ones.
I like that your data points to lower total games for the tight end position, because I do feel that tight ends tend to do better in low total games.
They do.
Like, I don't know why. I think like when you're facing a better defense, the tight end does a little bit better.
And the other one is the Washington Atlanta game, but not
Yeah,
on the
Logan.
Atlanta side. It's actually on
Oh,
the Washington side.
11 targets last week.
An away underdog. Yep. He is popping from all the metrics. Away underdog, under 45 points, under 24 implied team total. This is where we want to attack for an away underdog. We
I
want
like it.
that tight end that is in a 45 points in under 45 points, implied team total under 24. And Logan Thomas meets that criteria. It's 3,500. I was really hoping that Cade Otton would met the bill, but he's not meeting the bill in terms of betting lines. Being a home underdog, he really needed to, as a home underdog, basically the game needed to be greater than 45 total points with the implied team total under 24.
You know
He
what?
just doesn't have the implied. He doesn't have the total points to get there.
I hadn't thought about K Dot at all, but I will say that if Mike Evans is out for that game, then I think that that might get a few extra targets for K Dot and 3,200. I don't really care if he, goes crazy or just gets me 12. I think you're probably okay. I like that. TJ Hawkinson is another one
Mm-hmm.
that, with no Justin Jefferson, they're probably going to feature Hawkinson as somebody who gets 10 targets in this particular game. It's expensive at 6,600 to pay that, but I don't care. I'll pay it. I don't care. So I think Hawkinson, interesting. Logan Thomas, good call. Goddard did it last week. He could do it again. It's fine. Cole Kmet with Fields. No need to play him without. So, tight end should be really interesting. All right. Before I let you go, Burns,
Mm-hmm.
defense.
Yeah.
And really, I just want that defense of the week because it's been crushing. You mentioned I wasn't the defense of the week, I don't think last week, but you did mention the Saints here, and that wound up being the Nuts. Who is so? I have this sorted by ownership again, and
Mm-hmm.
very obvious. I think Eagles are the best play this week, but 3,800 is a price. You're paying the iron price really.
Yeah.
For that. And of course, 49ers on the road here, but against a Cleveland team that I think is in disarray.
Yeah. I'm still making some tweaks based off of the first 5 weeks of data that we have available. Those tweaks are probably going to change some things for me. Um, Currently, though, defenses that are jumping right off the page, probably the defense that is jumping off the page the most. It's a very gross defense. I don't even like it. It's the Raiders with New England coming in. I just don't like it because they're so expensive. They're $3,900. That's a
Oh,
lot.
yeah. I
It's a
mean,
lot.
obviously the Patriots have been epically bad the last two games,
That's
but
right.
as a bettor, the Patriots are kind of in a bounce back spot here as like they're not quite as bad as they've looked type of deal. Probably
Hmm.
like on paper, a bit more of a bounce back spot. But I get it. Listen, if you've been just targeting the Patriots this year, something's up with Mac Jones. I don't know, either he's worse than he's been. He's like actually growing to be a worse player than before, or we just have seen some variance, some noise, and things will turn around. I don't know, but that team has been awful.
Yeah, and if I had to spend under 3K, if that's where I needed to be in and around 3K, 2,800, that seems to be the sweet spot right now for winning Millie Maker defenses.
Yeah.
The one defense that I would probably be on is Cincinnati Bengals at 2,900.
I was just thinking that, and I didn't know if you were going to go there.
I really like them this week. Home favored and currently sitting at slightly under 4% ownership. It's a very unique play because a lot of people don't think that Cincinnati is a very good defense, but they actually are on the rise. They got a couple of their pieces back that was been out. So I started to see some things when I watched the Arizona game last week. They're starting to hit their stride again. So the Bengals are not going to be 2,900 again like this. Probably this season. They'll probably be in the 3.3 and higher. And that's where we've seen them mostly this year.
Yeah, I really like the call. I think one defense that I think also is under that 3K range that goes under the radar people are not necessarily computing that they're a good defense yet. The Lions are on the road at the Buccaneers, and I would throw the Lions in the mix as well. I do like a home team defense more often than not, but we can't have it all. Beggars can't be choosers. You got to have some spots you can't always pay 36 or 39. I need a cheapie in there. And, I think the Bucks at home as well are of interest at 2,300, just like let me pay down, punt it away, hope I get a single digit positive number, and I'll be fine. So I think the Bucks at the very low end, but the Lions have been actual good on defense this season, and it's not what is thought of. Like, I like it when the breaker of narratives. The narrative kind of thought was Lions are a team to target offenses against, but that just hasn't been the case this year. So I don't hate that spot as well. But we'll explore this some more, and you will explore this more in your Shark Lab article available on dfsarmy.com for DFS Army subscribers, where you'll have the whole player pool and a lot of the methodologies behind your player pool. That's available always on dfsarmy.com. Shark Lab article that comes out every single week for DFS Army subscribers. We'll also see you again on Tournament Tactics Show every Friday at 5. Be there live for Tournament Tactics if you are watching this before Friday, so you're aware that happens every Friday at 5 p.m. I will be back again as well, as I am every single week on the Players Club on Saturday afternoon. That is a DFS Army VIP only video where we will build lineups together. We will bring all the information that you've seen here on the channel. We bring it all together. We bust out the Geeks Picks cheat sheet available exclusively for DFS Army subscribers, and we'll build lineups together, where I like to teach the theory and the process for building lineups, why correlation, how correlations work, how to build secondary correlations, all handcrafted. So make sure for DFS Army VIPs that you watch that every single week. I noticed that video only gets maybe 1,000 to 1,200 views each week, which is less than half of our subscribership. So if you are subscribed to DFS Army, you should be watching that video each week. We build lineups together. We drink Blue Moons.
That's right.
That part alone is a lot of fun.
I just saw that this one, week 5 for this one, got 5.8K views. Crazy.
Yeah, this has been one of our most popular shows. People love you, Burns.
I love everybody. So I'm very happy that people are watching us.
We've been hiding you behind the paywall for years. I didn't realize that the popularity of Burns was going to explode. So we're going to keep that going. This show was actually always supposed to be behind the DFS Army paywall. We accidentally made it public in week 1, and it got such a great viewership that we're like, okay, let's do it again. So keep on watching, guys. Hit the like, and we'll keep this show going for you all season long as well. If you're not signed up for DFS Army, I've been pushing the free month package this week, Burns, just because I want to. I figure if you guys have been watching our videos, we're week 6 of the season, and you're kind of like, hey, I'd like to be in the Discord with those guys and learning and be in the streams where we're teaching how to use the optimizer, and be in the streams where we teach how to use our tools, or be in the Discord, have access to projections and ownerships and all the important things that are necessary. The matchup sheet, which we use every week. I use the matchup sheet probably more than any other tool right here on dfsarmy.com, the matchup sheet. But if you want a free month of DFS Army, you want to try it out, you're not currently a subscriber, but you're like, hey, I wouldn't mind trying it out for free. You just click the free month icon right there on the dfsarmy.com website. Follow the instructions here. You're just going to sign up for one of our partner sites and let us know that you did it. We will give you a free month of VIP. That is a, great thing to get. Check it out. And then if you're like, hey, I don't like it, that's cool. You didn't lose anything. You got it. It's free. You checked it out. If you like it, we hope that you'll stick around and become a DFS Army member. But if not, no harm, no foul. You keep watching the videos. We don't take it personal. So check out the free month offer list here. And if you haven't signed up for any of these sites, I think the best one right now, everybody has Prize Picks is great. We have a tool for it. We have a tool coming out, a Proptimizer tool coming out for Sleeper in the next week or 2, Burns. We are literally maybe a week away, maybe 2 weeks away. We're just mapping Sleeper. So we will have the first and the best Sleeper pick'em game tool in the industry, just like our Prize Picks tool. It blows away any other tool that's out there right now. It's not even close. It's so much better. And our team with Will and Willin and Sniper and the rest, we actually have a couple of members who just, these guys are giving out plays and tickets each day. Sniper's been tracking his shit. He's up just tons of units for full tickets that he's given out. So if you want to kind of blindly do DFS without having to think much, you just play on Prize Picks or Sleeper, and you just put in the same tickets, that Sniper or Will in are putting in. There is no restriction against sharing your tickets and copying and doing the same thing. So we get, unlike DraftKings, where I can't really give out lineups here, you can do that on Prize Picks and Sleeper. So we're happy to do that with really, really sharp people. So again, we have a Prize Picks /Sleeper only subscription. They're called the Proptimizer subscription. If you only do that stuff as well, and you can get 2 free months of that if you sign up for one of these sites here and let us know. So a lot of great ways to take part in DFS, to kick ass, and to get info from really sharp people that are profitable and tracked, and they will give you the exact same tickets. All you have to do is sign up. If you're signed up at DFS Army, also make sure you're checking out the Pick'em games and the Proptimizer tool that we have at dfsarmy.com. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I'll say this, with that free month, you get access to not only football, you get it to, NHL just kicked off 2 days ago. You got Sean Hoy and the boys over there with a brand new domination station just for NHL. I used it the last 2 nights, slamming. It is an idealistic optimizer.
How good is that, Bill?
It's slamming.
It took me 2 years and countless hours of consultation with people who play NHL, because I don't,
Yeah.
to figure out the ultimate stacking methodology for hockey. I had to study winning line. I felt like I'm Burns's Millie Maker book. I had to effectively write that just to figure out how to set up the stacking system for hockey that was going to take down tournaments the way this one is set up to do.
I'm going to take on hockey like I take on NFL. So it's just gonna it's like baseball. If you're really good at MLB, you're probably essentially going to be decent to good at NHL, because it has a lot of the same criterias with stacking. It's got, but it's a little different in terminology, et cetera, et cetera. But if you have a good optimizer, I think you can nail it. And it was a very exciting slate last night. It was very high scoring. You had multiple guys over 50 points scoring on DraftKings. It was crazy, but you can get that, and you get access to Chop and Don at all over there as well. And those guys are very sharp NHL guys.
Showdown Breakdown. Bobby Wow was spitting out a name, some rookie on the Blackhawks or something. And
Connor Bedard, yeah,
and apparently he's like, if you're playing hockey tonight, play Bedard. And then he was like, I hope you played Bedard. So I assume Bedard did well.
He scored. He scored. Right. He got like I think it was 18 DraftKings points, which for his salary is really good, but or decent, but
even Bobby Wow spitting winners in hockey. I'm like, what is going on here? I don't even know the name of 3 hockey players. I can't name 3 of them.
The guy that crushed was Austin Matthews. He got 55 DraftKings points at 9,300. So he essentially made well over tournament value.
Sounds like an expensive player. But anyway, we got everything going on, and NFL coming soon as well. So this is the time to get signed up. Take the free month.
For sure.
It's free. Where else are you going to get it? And by the way, our monthly subscription at DFS Army, we have Optimizer and all the tools that we have. Every other site that has this type of tools charges effectively double what we do, more than double. And we've done it on purpose because I want to keep to our original theme. We built DFS Army to turn average Joes into DFS pros, to give the average player the same advantages that pro players have. And that is what we've achieved. There's a reason why DFS Army subscribers win more contests than any other site. Other sites have just as many wins, but it's their staff, it's their hired guns that are just showing you, hey, look, we won. I win. Oh, of course you do. You've been winning all the time. You're who I'm up against, and you're who DFS Army is up against, and you're who our membership is up against. That's why when Bengal Tiger Sliders wins 100K 2 days ago, or all these big wins that we've been showing all throughout the season, the $1 million winners that have come out that are just regular average Joes competing like pros. That's what excites me. That's why we did this. That's why I do it. That's what gets me more excited than anything. So get on board, get on the team. For Burns, for me, we'll see you guys next time. Good luck, everyone.